Bloomberg reports that Western sanctions are now significantly impacting Russia's oil exports, marking the first notable disruption since the invasion of Ukraine over 2 years ago. Recent events indicate growing obstacles for Moscow in maintaining its vital energy sales amidst layers of US, European, and allied restrictions. A significant setback occurred as Indian refiners, Russia's second largest oil customer after China, decided to halt acceptance of crude cargoes on tankers owned by state run Sovcomflot. This shipping giant handled about one-fifth of Russia's oil sales to India last year, but its fleet of over 100 vessels is now effectively shut out from this major market due to refiners refusing to take on sanctions risks. Moreover, numerous other Russian tankers targeted by US sanctions have been unable to load new cargoes since being blacklisted. At least 7 Sovcomflot ships have seemingly disappeared from tracking systems on the Black Sea, indicating a disruption caused by Western penalties. In addition, Russian diesel cargoes are accumulating at sea without buyers, with over 6 million barrels floating idle as of mid-March, the highest volume since at least 2017. This surplus comes despite Ukraine's attempts to reduce supplies through drone attacks on Russian refineries. Greg Brew, an analyst at the Eurasia Group, noted a significant increase in U.S. sanctions pressure on Russian crude oil and diesel exports, coinciding with a decline in production. Although Russia can still rely on a shadow fleet of reflagged tankers to evade restrictions, the associated shipping costs have surged. The expense of delivering Russian crude to China, for example, now includes approximately $15 per barrel in freight fees, which over half of which is directly linked to the sanctions. These growing supply chain barriers present a shift for the Kremlin, which has managed to direct substantial volumes of oil to nations like India, sustaining a major revenue stream despite Western sanctions on the product. However, this situation is gradually changing as economic pressure tightens and the war persists. Janis Kluge, a sanctions expert at the German Institute for International Security Affairs, highlighted that while the impact remains contained, it will lead to increased costs, and Russia will have to discount oil prices further to sustain its exports. With the focus on the upcoming election cycle, there's speculation about how far the U.S. and its allies will escalate oil sanctions, considering the potential for higher energy costs. Since launching the invasion, Russia has maintained its oil revenues, and it's credited to being able to redirect the exports. And recent strikes have been leading to a reduction in the country's refining capacity. For example, on the night of March 23rd, the Kuibyshev oil refinery in Samara was targeted by a drone attack. This attack caused a fire at the refinery, and the regional government confirmed the incident and attributed it to a drone attack. There were no reported casualties from the report. The fire was extinguished by the morning. There was also an attack on the Novokuybishevsk refinery, which is also in the Samara region, although no fire was reported from this strike, which also occurred on the 23rd. The Kuibyshev oil refinery is one of the largest oil industry enterprises in the Samara region. The plant has been part of Rosneft since 2007, and it currently has a capacity of about 7 million tons of oil per year processing. According to the UK's Defense Ministry's report, the drone attacks have so far disrupted around 10% of Russia's total refinery capacity. Over recent weeks, Ukrainian forces have carried out a series of drone strikes targeting Russia's oil industry, and the extent of the damage suggests significant repairs could take considerable time and cost. So I will go ahead and move on to the next topic. So we'll be getting a lot more detail on that from our next segment. Vladimir Kudrynsky, CEO of Ukrenergo, the primary energy distributor in Ukraine, stated that the Russian missile attack on March 22nd targeted various regions and included thermal and hydroelectric power plants, as well as key substations operated by the company. Ukraine's energy ministry reported that power engineers have successfully restored the electricity supply in Odessa and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts following extensive attacks on the energy grid on the 22nd. In Dnipropetrovsk, the electricity supply has been fully reinstated, including the complete reconnection of Kryvyi Rih. In Khmelnytsky Oblast, electricity has been restored to all customers, but there's a possibility of additional restrictions if consumption rises. The Energy Ministry cautions further restrictions may happen in Odessa as well. In Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest urban center, around 35% of residential buildings have had their electricity supply reinstated after a major attack, with roughly half now having access to heating. Mayor Ihor Terekhov disclosed that the statistics he disclosed those statistics on a televised fundraiser. And this follows 15 Russian attacks on Kharkiv's energy infrastructure on March 22nd, leaving the city almost entirely without power, as per the head of the military administration. Consequently, 275,000 customers are still currently without electricity. They've restored about 2/3 of the customers, so about 500,000 or so, and then 275,000 still don't have electricity as of at least last night, I believe. The president has emphasized the critical situation, noting that the energy crisis is particularly severe and that efforts to restore power to households are proceeding with the highest possible speed. State Emergency Service reports that about 17,000 individuals sought assistance at 149 resilient centers in Kharkiv on March 23rd. The resilient centers are places where people can get electricity and heating. On March 20th, Russia launched a wave of terror attacks using drone and missile strikes, and at least 5 people were killed. And this was the beginning of the attack on the power grid that proceeded into the 22nd. The Dnipropetrovsk hydroelectric station, Ukraine's largest hydroelectric power plant, was one of the primary targets of the attacks. 8 Russian missiles hit the station, causing significant damage to the facility. The Dnipro hydroelectric station, also known as the Dnipro Dam, is located in the city of Zaporizhia. It is the largest hydroelectric power station on the Dnieper River, and it's the 5th step in the Dnieper cascade of hydroelectric stations that provides electric power for the Donetsk and Kryvyi Rih region. The damage to the Dnipro hydroelectric power plant has resulted in the loss of 20% of the capacity of Ukra Hydroenergo, so the Ukrainian hydroelectrical power generation, Ukraine's largest hydropower generating company. Despite the significant damage, the Environmental Ministry stated that the situation is under control and that there's no danger of a breach of the dam following the attack. It's part of a pattern of Russian aggression against Ukrainian infrastructure. The Ukrainian Army Command noted that Russia launched 69 missiles from land, sea, and air, and that this is one of the most massive missile attacks on the 20th since the full-scale invasion. These attacks have disrupted power and essential services and caused significant civilian casualties. The international community has condemned the attacks, and efforts are underway to provide aid and support to affected regions. Next item. Russia has appointed Admiral Alexander Moiseev as the acting commander-in-chief of its navy, replacing Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov. This change in leadership comes as a series of attacks have provided setbacks for the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Admiral Alexander Moiseev is an experienced officer of the Russian Navy. He initially trained in film repair before undergoing military service and studying at the Naval Technical Institute. He spent 29 years serving on Russian nuclear submarines and has held high-ranking positions in the past, including command of both the Black Sea Fleet and the Northern Fleet. It's considered quite a shakeup of the Russian Navy for his appointment. Admiral Nikolai Yemenov, who the new admiral is replacing, served as the commander-in-chief from 2019 to 2024. He also had a career serving on Russian nuclear submarines in the Pacific Fleet and held various command positions. However, his tenure has seen a series of setbacks for the Russian Navy, where Ukrainian forces have claimed to destroy more than 24 ships since the start of the full-scale invasion. The Ukrainian attacks have been a significant blow, as they have resulted in not only the loss of naval vessels, but have also forced Russia to relocate the Black Sea Fleet base from Crimea to Novorossiysk. The change in leadership is seen as a response to the problems caused by the Ukrainian setbacks. Next item. After discussions between German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius and his French counterpart Sébastien Lecornu in Berlin, it was revealed that KNDS, comprising France's Nexter and Germany's Krauss Maffei Wegmann intends to establish a subsidiary in Ukraine. The subsidiary will manufacture artillery ammunition and replace components for weapons supplied to them. Pistorius emphasized the joint commitment of France and Germany to enhance Ukraine's self sufficiency in ammunition production, and the French minister highlighted the strategic advantage of situating production closer to the theater of combat operations. BFM TV elaborated on the necessity for spare parts, particularly the Caesar self propelled artillery systems and the AMX 10 armored vehicles, which Ukraine has received many of during the ongoing war. The report mentioned that Ukraine has acquired 30 Caesars and 38 AMXs with plans from Paris to produce an additional 78 Caesars total for Ukraine. The need to replace components of artillery is pressing. This has been expressed by the Ukrainians, especially for the Caesar, which requires maintenance after approximately 2,000 rounds. Given the intense usage of these systems, periodic replacement of components like the barrel is essential for continued operation. According to a French official speaking anonymously, there's a prospect for this plan to include Ukrainian production facilities transitioning from manufacturing spare parts into eventually producing complete weapon systems. German officials stated at the press conference that the agreement is still in the very preliminary stages and that more specifics will be stated about the plan as it develops. Next item. Gunmen launched a deadly assault on a concert hall in a Moscow suburb on Friday, resulting in a reported death toll of at least 133, as confirmed by Russian officials. According to the Moscow Times, here's what is known about the incident at Crocus City Hall in Krasnogorsk, where a concert by a rock band called Picnic was scheduled. The attackers were clad in what is described as tactical uniforms and initiated the assault around 8:15 p.m., just prior to the commencement of the concert featuring the Soviet-era band. Investigators indicated the assailants used automatic firearms and ignited fire within the venue using a flammable substance. Reports from emergency services suggest that between 2 and 5 armed individuals entered the concert hall and opened fire. Footage circulating on social media, reportedly linked to security services, depicts 2 individuals entering the hall, and other clips show scenes of chaos with people fleeing and bodies in the venue. The numerous individuals sought refuge within the hall or hurried towards the exit, leading to the basement or rooftop in an effort to evade the gunmen. Hours after the attack, an AFP reporter on site observed black smoke and flames emanating from the roof of the concert hall, capable of accommodating around 6,000. Reports indicated that a portion of the roof had collapsed from the fire. The confirmed death toll stands at a minimum of 133 individuals, with expectations of further casualties as rescue efforts persist in looking over the debris in the coming days. During the clearance operations at the City Hall, the number of casualties this is just a quote confirming 133 casualties. As per the Ministry of Emergency Situations, 100 individuals are currently hospitalized as of Saturday. Fire services played a critical role in aiding approximately 100 individuals escaping through the basement. According to the Russian news agency TASS, all members of the band were evacuated, and rescue efforts were initiated to assist individuals who are still trapped on the roof. I assume that's resolved by now. The Islamic State asserted responsibility for the attack on Friday, stating that its members targeted a large gathering on the outskirts of Moscow and subsequently withdrew to their bases unharmed. The Kremlin confirmed the arrest of 11 individuals, including 4 assailants. Russia's FSB security service disclosed that some of the attackers had fled in the direction, or I should say they claimed, the Russia-Ukraine border, further noting that they maintained appropriate contacts within the country. In contrast, Ukraine leveled accusations against the Kremlin and its agencies, alleging that there was an orchestration of the attack. This is the Ukrainian intelligence services basically claimed this potentially as a false flag. 2 weeks prior to the assault, the U.S. Embassy issued a warning stating there was a risk of extremists targeting large gatherings in Moscow, including concerts. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman criticized the United States, saying that if the U.S. had reliable information, it should have immediately transmitted it. I should mention, since then, it's come out that the U.S. actually sent a picture of one of the alleged terrorists in the building, doing reconnaissance, basically. So it's a rather specific warning that the U.S. Provided. So next, I wanted to provide, or I want to say 6 total Tajik nationals have actually been accused of committing some of these acts in Russia. And Tajikistan, the government has issued kind of some official statements on the matter. And so I think I've seen a lot of coverage of the sort of Russian sources and the reporting from that. But I wanted to provide a little bit of context from the Tajik side in terms of their response to what was said. So I'm going to be just basically providing a translation of a report by Radio Free Tajikistan. I think it's an excellent news source for information about Tajikistan if anyone's interested in checking them out. I know some journalists that work there. They're cool people. Okay, so due to the emergence of video footage broadcasted by several Russian channels on Telegram on March 23rd, there is the suspicion that the terrorist attack on Crocus City Hall involved 4 foreign nationals, possibly citizens of Tajikistan and Tajik residents of Russia. Russian authorities have reported the detention of 11 individuals involved in the attack, including 4 direct participants, but have not disclosed their identities. However, they have not confirmed or denied officially any reports about Tajik citizens' involvement and only stated that all participants were foreigners and have been apprehended. So I want to stress, this article from Tajikistan stresses that most of what they're saying comes from Telegram channels that are known to be state affiliated but aren't official channels. In other words, Russia hasn't made any official statements about this stuff, or only a few, and they'll specify when. But when they say electronic sources or something like that, that's basically what they mean. It's maybe a little bit dismissive to say they're just Telegram channels because they are affiliated with Russian sources, but it's a little far to say that they're official sources. Anyways. According to an initial list containing the names of 6 individuals, the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Tajikistan identified 3 Tajik citizens involved in the attack. Among the identified individuals, one person's photo was published, which Russian networks claim to be one of the attackers detained in the Bryansk region. Following the injury during the attack, he was initially admitted to a hospital in Bryansk, specializing in respiratory and pulmonary disorders and intensive care. But on the evening of March 23rd, security officials took him into custody, and it's likely that he's currently in the Moscow detention center. Mohammad Sabir Faizov, who's age 19 from Dushanbe, has been identified as one of the attackers who was working in a factory in the city of Ivanovo, Russia, since November 2023. On March 23rd, on the basis of video footage broadcast by several Russian channels on Telegram, at least 4 foreigners were arrested on suspicion and are possibly citizens of Tajikistan. Russian authorities, sorry, that's already a repetition. From the first list, which contained the list of 6 people, the Ministry of Internal Affairs denied the participation of 3 of those citizens. Of the remaining 3 names, a photo is published of one person. I already mentioned that. Man, this is repetitive, sorry. 19-year-old, this is another suspect, 19-year-old Muhammad Sabir Faizov, a native of Dushanbe, has been known to have been working in a barbershop in the city since 2023. According to information on his social network page on VKontakte, he does subscribe to religious channels and publish manuscripts in Arabic, which reflect some religious feelings. He announced that he's in love with Allah, and he mentions the Quran. He's also a member of the pages I'm in love with Islam, Islam is my life, Tajiks of the world, and pages about obtaining Russian citizenship. He opened a new page and published photos, one of which was taken in 2016 on the banks of the Krasnoholmskaya neighborhood in Moscow in front of the House of Music. He has photos from the city of Ivanovo, where he worked, and one of his new pages, the name of a certain group of people is repeated in the video. Lying on a hospital bed with a swollen head, he asks, "What did I do?" And the interpreter tells him that he doesn't know because he's been brought to translate. So in other words, that's the video of his arrest, right? He's in the hospital saying, "What did I do?" Another on the list, 22-year-old Salfolzoda Shohinjan Adu Gaforovich. Only this is known about him. He was born in the Faizabadi district of Tajikistan, and no news or video about him has been published beyond unofficially the name. According to other videos published by Russian Telegram channels, another person answers the questions of the interrogator through a translator, and he tells the story of buying a car with the help of a fellow countryman named Abdullah. The video is not complete and it's a loan, and he guessed about the car. The suspects of the attack allegedly wanted to escape to use this car. And I should mention, like, if you watch the video, he looks like he's under duress when he's talking. I don't know how else to put it. Another person who calls him Fariduni Shamsuddin is also a citizen of Tajikistan, and answers questions in the front of the forest surrounded by armed people who are probably Russian law enforcement, and he has tied hands and a trembling body. He admits to his participation in the attack. For this, allegedly, the organization promised him about 1 million rubles, and so far they've transferred, according to him, 500,000 to his bank account. Another person who was shown with a bloody head and face, and an ear removed, and a damaged chin, called himself Raja Balizoda, and in other videos they are shown torturing him. In all these cases, there's no evidence that the detainees were directly involved in the attack on the concert hall. I should mention there was, there was an OSINT source that compared the clothing of the attackers to the clothing of the suspects apprehended. It looks like that we might have a match for maybe one of them, maybe a few more, but I should just mention, like, there's certainly nothing definitively demonstrating that all the people apprehended were involved. I'll put it that way. It's also impossible to verify that these people are directly related so far. Aside for some writings from on VKontakte by one of the suspects, there's no real evidence to emerge that any of them are connected to the Islamic State, according to the Tajiks who investigated. And Russian electronic publications accuse other citizens of being involved in the attack, but they mention that the accusations have no truth. So I should mention that the press statement, the Ministry of Internal Affairs issued an official press statement, and they mentioned that there are at least 3 people in the charges that were in that are totally groundless. And the reason for that is that 2 of the residents were in Tajikistan at the time. These are Ismanov and Nasruddinov, and that they published photos of them. It's a bit strange to me. The photos are actually of them indoors, like behind some wallpaper. I will say it looks like very Tajik wallpaper to me. Like, I've seen that wallpaper before, but it's odd to me they wouldn't just take a photo of them like in Dushanbe. That seems like a much simpler thing. But so the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Tajikistan released photographic evidence that these people were in Dushanbe, in another country, when this incident occurred. And then the third person mentioned who was accused by the Russian Federation was in Samara at the time of the incident in Russia, but in a different region of Samara. And he immediately turned himself into the police in Russia and basically said, "I had nothing to do with this. I'm here to clear my name." So at least 3 of the people that were named in these accusations of arrests, the government of Tajikistan has effectively said, like, it's basically impossible that these people were involved directly in this, at least. So yeah, that's pretty much what the Tajiks had to say about it. And that concludes my news report for this week.